Hello and welcome to the Late Life Lesbian. In this video, I am going to share with you the easiest way to navigate coming out while married. So, for those of you who are new here and don't know me, my name is Emily Better and I am a late life lesbian. Or, in other words, my story is that I was originally married to a man for 11 years. We had a son together, but over this time, I realized that I was truly, in fact, a lesbian, which led us to the decision to get divorced. And I came out, and I am now remarried to the woman of my dreams. Plus, in addition to that, after going through everything, I now offer life coaching services to other women on this journey of realizing that they're lesbians while married to or in relationships with men. I understand how difficult this journey is, how emotional it is, how confusing, and just the inner turmoil that women go through during this process. And so, from my own experience and from my coaching, I wanted to put together this video to share with you the easiest way to navigate this journey. Now, no way is truly easy, but this is just what I've learned to be the easiest way in such a difficult situation as this. So let's dive in. I'm going to move this out of the way. And there we go. Okay. So as I said, this is the easiest way to navigate coming out while married. And there are 4 key factors to this. Now, I do want to let you know, stick with me all the way to the end, all through the 4 factors, because the last factor I'm going to go over is the one factor that makes this whole journey and process easier. So definitely be sure to watch until the end. All right. So now to start off with this, I'm going to kind of share with you my framework for coming out and living as your authentic self. And this is where these 4 factors come into play. So I've created this house model because I like to view coming out and living as your authentic self, getting through this journey to be who you truly are, as being at home with who you are. You know, living as your authentic self, embracing who you are creates a sense of peace and home within you. So the house model, I feel, helps convey that, and in the same way that all the things within our own homes work together to create a running, functional, happy, just stable home, these 4 factors all work together to create a happy, stable, authentic you. All right. So let's go ahead and get into the first one. All right. So the first component of this is understanding. All right. Now let's talk a little bit more about that. So understanding kind of means both understanding yourself and understanding the situation, because there are real reasons why we don't figure out our sexuality until later, or why we end up going through this process. And those are things like your compulsory heterosexuality, upbringing, and heteronormativity. These are things that influence our views on sexuality. So for me, I was raised in a Catholic conservative family, in a religious family. And so my upbringing never really had any exposure to homosexuality, and any exposure that it did have was typically more negative. So, and then compulsory heterosexuality is sort of the idea that, everybody is just straight by nature, and that's just how the world works and how it's supposed to be, and just being straight and getting married and all of that is just like sort of the way the world works. And growing up with that, we just never even got the opportunity to think that our sexuality could be anything else. And then heteronormativity is kind of along those same lines. Heteronormativity is the idea that just being straight is normal. Like that's just the normal default way that everybody should be. But that's just not the case, but due to these factors, these can really influence us on realizing our true sexuality. And then understanding the situation, this whole situation includes a lot of fear, a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, those aren't on there, but the fear, and understanding how fear works. Fear is there to try to keep you safe, and keep you in a place. I love the quote that's Fear would rather keep you in a known sort of unpleasant, horrible situation because that's where it feels safe versus allowing you to go into an unknown heaven. It's more like that. Fear would rather keep you in a known hell than allow you to go to an unknown heaven because it's just where it feels safer. So understanding that concept allows you to be able to work through some of that fear. Also understanding grief. Going through this process, if you are choosing that you want to come out and you want to move forward with this and you want to live authentically, that often involves sort of grieving the life that you had once had and built. And going through the stages of grief is really, really common and really part of the journey of coming out later in life, especially while, married to a man and with kids. You will go through those stages of grief. And so will likely other people involved in your life because, excuse me, it is almost like mourning the loss of a life you once had and known. And sometimes even not so much the person that you were, but I mean, you are sort of stepping into being your authentic self. So this way that you've been living for so long, you're kind of transitioning out of that. And again, grief sometimes comes along with that. So understanding that you're going to go through that again allows the process to be a little bit easier because you understand why you're experiencing what you're experiencing, and you can kind of slowly navigate that. And then change, change is big. And this kind of goes into the fear and the grief and all of that. This is a big life change. So again, understanding that this process will sometimes require you to, learn to live a new normal, and that takes time. But understanding that change and what that process looks like, again, makes it a little bit easier. All right. Let's move on to the next one. So we've got, again, living as your authentic self, understanding being that first one. And the second one here is mindset. All right. So let's scroll down and talk about mindset. Mindset is kind of what it sounds like. How are you looking at this situation? Are you looking at it positively or are you looking at it negatively? I know that a lot of women that go through this, and, even what I went through myself, is you look at a lot of the negatives. What if this is the worst thing? What if my coming out ruins my family? What if, my kids hate me? What if my family doesn't accept me? We think through all of those negative thoughts with this, but for every negative, there is actually a positive. I spelled that wrong. We'll fix that. There we go. For every negative, there is a positive. So, meaning all those negative what ifs, like, what if this is the worst thing that ever happened to me? But what if it's the best thing? What if you feel better, freer, more whole, more happier, more fulfilled than you have ever felt in your entire life? What if you're coming out and let's say you make that choice that you also, like me, feel you need to separate or divorce from your male partner? What if that allows them to meet the woman that is perfect for them, that loves them in a way that you just can't? What if your coming out shows your kids that it's okay to do hard things and to live as you truly are? And what if that inspires them and gives them that example so that they aren't afraid to come to you and tell you, maybe who they truly are, what they truly want? So for every negative, there's a positive. And so working on that mindset to find the good, to understand that even though this is a hard situation and even though there will be emotions to work through, that a lot of good can actually come from it as well. So focusing on that mindset, kind of retraining and re-looking at things again can make it be a little easier and a little like build more of that confidence in your decision to come out and live authentically. All right, let's move on to number 3. All right, so number 3 here is self-work. Okay, so self-work is, let's come down here. Self-work is taking action. What you're going to do in this situation. One of the first things that is necessary to figuring all of that out is, knowing what is it that you want. So many women are in this situation and they're feeling this inner turmoil and, going through this process of, do I come out? Do I stay? All the negative what ifs. What if this hurts my family? What if it hurts my kids? Should I just continue to live this way, like, and bear this burden? So one of the first things you can do is just figure out what you want. Do you want to continue living this way? Or do you ultimately want to come out and live as your true self? And once you sort of figure that out for you, you can start taking action on that. None of this has to happen overnight. Maybe for some people, they are that way. They figure it out, they take action, they do it. But once you know what you want, you can start to take baby steps towards achieving that goal. Sometimes I like to compare it to if you start going to the gym and working out. You don't just go to the gym one day and you're in the best shape of your life. It takes time. It takes dedication. It takes that self-work, taking action every day, taking those baby steps forward to finally get to being in the best shape of your life. And this journey of coming out is very similar to that. We have to take those slow steps. We have to work on ourselves. We have to understand, going back to that understanding part, why this has happened to us, why we're doing what we're doing. And the more that we can sort of embrace who we truly are, the easier it is to continue to take those baby steps to ultimately come out and live as your true self. So again, none of this works if you're not willing to take some type of action. And again, maybe you don't want to, and maybe that's your choice, and that's fine, and you can stay right where you are. But what I can tell you is the inner turmoil and this, some people just think, oh, if I just stay longer, if I just wait it out, maybe I'm just bored. All of these things, in my experience, this is something that never goes away. So figuring out what you want, starting to take those steps forward will help you achieve coming out and being your true self. All right. So the last one, as I said, this is the one that does truly make this whole process easier. All right, so stick with me through this one. The last one here is support. Support absolutely makes this journey and process so much easier. All right, so scrolling down, this right here makes everything easier. So connection with other people, community, finding other women who are going through this, someone to talk to. Maybe you do have a therapist or a counselor. Make sure that person validates your feelings, because I've also known women who have gone to therapists or counselors and shared these feelings, and they've been dismissed or talked away, like, oh, you just must be bored, or your marriage just must be difficult, so you think that being with a woman would just be easier. And I can tell you, I've known some women who I've spoken to who believed that person and kept trying and kept going, only to get sadder, more depressed. Their mental health, it took a toll on their mental and emotional health and just overall well-being, until they finally sort of understood more, did that self-work, and realized what they truly desired, and what was missing was the fact they were truly a lesbian. And then they took those steps to come out and then lived a happier, more fulfilled, and more satisfied life, because they were living as their true self. So having support on this journey, a community of people, or again, even if you just have one person that you can talk to, be open with, to, share who you truly are, have that validation, makes this so much easier. So you don't feel like you constantly have to hide your true self all the time. And that's the other thing too. When you have support and you can actually show up as you truly are, like I said, that validates it too, and just starts to make it easier to show up as your true self, even in other settings. The other thing that support offers is accountability. So let's just say you figure out what you want. You do ultimately want to come out. You do feel that the right choice for you is to separate from your male partner. Having support can help you be accountable for those decisions, because you might know that, but it's really hard to take those steps. And sometimes when you do take some of those steps, it feels like it would be easier just to take it all back. And I've known women that go through that too. They take a step to come out, and it maybe doesn't go as well as they hoped, and so they just take it all back, and then they hide who they are for more years, and the inner turmoil and the mental emotional stress continues to build up because they're not being who they truly are. And then they get to a point where they know that they need to come out and they need to go through this process again, but then it's almost even harder because they did it once and now there's all of this fear. So having support, having somebody you can talk to, someone who can help encourage you and keep you accountable for what it is that you want, this is everything that makes this process easier.